I beg you.
Also an historic episode that the talented historian and writer Josephus Flavius wrote about almost 2,000 years ago. His account contains all the elements of a fantastic drama in which Jews, Romans, and idealists fight to the death. It's no wonder that Hollywood jumped at the opportunity to tell this fascinating story. With an impressive set and thousands of extras, they created a colossal film featuring the rebel leader Eleazar, son of Yair, and the Roman commander Flavius Silva in the leading roles. However, in the movie, unlike real life, no one really deals with the dilemmas or personal struggles, and certainly not with the more problematic aspects of the story. Then where should we start our story? We could start with the Hasmoneans, who were the first to discover the advantages of this isolated cliff in the heart of the desert. Or we could start at the end, with a dramatic project of the Masada excavations, with Igal Yadin, the head of the excavation team, who would stand on the mountain and read Josephus Flavius' description of the account, and everyone around him could actually hear the echoes of the fighting. Or we could start the quest with King Herod. Herod, who ruled under the auspices of the Romans, built himself a magnificent fortress here on the mountain, which was to be his sanctuary in troubled times. And believe me, he really had troubles. Herod, like any other king, built his palaces to the highest standards of his day. One of them is this Western palace. Herod's architect was probably a short guy. Here he built himself a bathhouse, and he would put his lamp here and enter his bath. What can I tell you? This king loved the good life. Until now, we spoke about Herod. It wasn't the splendor of Herod's style that made Masada what it is today. The year is 66 AD. The Jews rebel against the Roman Empire. 4 years later, the temple is destroyed. Jerusalem falls. Everywhere else, the rebels were suppressed. Masada is the last stronghold where there are still Jewish rebels. And believe me, they didn't need Herod's palaces. The rooms in the wall were divided and used as living quarters. They lived from food in the storerooms, and they drank water from the cisterns, kindly left behind by Herod long ago.
Right from the beginning of the excavations, signs of the rebels were found elsewhere, in the palaces, in the ritual baths, and in particular in the wall. The deepest experience I went through in Masada was when they found in this particular room the first piece of scroll. To see Hebrew letters coming out of the ground, the same letters which are used until today. Later, more fragments of scrolls were found. One I found with my own hands, but the first experience is unforgettable.
Throughout the revolt, groups of refugees sought asylum on the mountain. About 1,000 rebels gathered in this fortress in the heart of the wilderness. In 73 AD, the Romans' 10th Legion arrived with thousands of armed soldiers who deployed themselves around the mountain. An enormous war machine. And the movies do it best, after the Romans, of course. The Romans built an attack ramp. The besieged rebels roll stones down it. The Romans lift a tower to the top of the ramp, equipped with a battering ram to smash the wall. The besieged erect a wood and earthen wall to sustain the blows of the battering ram. The Romans burn it, but the wind almost burns their own tower. Then the wind veering as if by divine providence to the south, blowing with full force in the opposite direction, flung flames against the wall, which now was all ablaze. And in the evening, when the wall was burnt and breached, the Roman army returned to its camps, assured that the whole affair would be over by morning. But Eleazar had ideas of his own. This is it, the last night. My friends, we've reached the climax of the drama. However, unlike the movie, here apparently the events actually took place. And here at Masada, men with families were forced to decide slavery or death. Eleazar had no doubts, but he had yet to convince his comrades in arms. Ladies and gentlemen, the speech of Eleazar. Oh, my loyal followers, The time has now come that obliges us to make that resolution true in practice. Let our wives die before they are abused, and our children before they have tasted slavery, and preserve ourselves in freedom as an excellent funeral monument for us, as we have preferred death before slavery. Once Yigael Yadin was asked what was the most important artifact he found on Masada. Dozens of priceless objects were found here, he answered, but if I must point to one find, it would be these ostraka. These potsherds. These may be the lots that I'm holding now. Potsherds on which the rebels wrote their names. 10 men who were chosen were the only ones who remained. Their equipment had already burned, and each of them had already killed his wife and children. Then they drew the lots. Who would kill the 9th man and fall on his own sword? And in the morning the Romans arrived, and besides 2 women and a few children, everyone was dead. After the drama came silence. The silence was broken in the 5th century for nearly 200 years by a community of Byzantine monks. 1,200 years later, the first explorers came and rediscovered the mountain. Then the members of the youth movements, seeking a symbol of Jewish heroism, discovered Masada and adopted the mountain. After them came the hikers and the tourists. Masada had become a focus of pilgrimage. Professor Netzer, what do you really think about the act of courage that ended in suicide?
Maybe it's the utmost courage to prefer death to a life of slavery.
So it's death or freedom?
Yes, death as a free man or slavery in the hands of the Romans. Which choice would you make?
No matter what, Masada has become a symbol of staunch resistance against a fierce enemy. And if it is a symbol, then perhaps this might be some kind of victory. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to climb the mountain.
זה לא חשוב בשבילי.
אני יודע, זה לא משהו אישי, גם לי זה לא חשוב.
גם מזכירה, היא אמרה שצריך. 우리는 모든 가이드들과 맨날 저렇게 싸워요. 그리고 운영하는데 이 사람이 많이 밀리면 빨리빨리 해주면 좋잖아요. 근데 지네 뭐 커피 마시고 쉬고 한다고 핑계 대면서 이게 정해진 시간이 있다 그런 게 없는 거 아는데 아까 그 가이드도 저한테
Die Römer gehen weg und lassen von diesem Legion, das sind 10.000 Leute, 5.000
Anyone else is inside? 이게 도식 저장고예요. 여기에서 최소 6년에서 최대 9년치의 식량이 남아 있었다. 이 사람들이 그랬죠. 나중에 기록을 이렇게 하기 전에 남겨놓은 거거든요. 그러니까 한번 해보는 이유는 볼식이 없어서도 물이 없어서 우리는 머리카락 피를 이기 위한 죽음을 선택합니다.
돌아갔는데 그냥 그때만.
내려갑니다. 거기 소금층이 가는 곳이고요. 저 요르단과 이곳이 지금은 물이 많이 없어졌기 때문에 완전히 연결돼 있잖아요. 이게 있는데 연결됐다 끊어졌다 하면서 드러났다 없어졌다 하는 그런 곳이에요. 요거를 밟고 나오미가 저 산지에서 나와서 모압에 갔다가 다시 돌아올 때 요걸 밟고 산지로 갈 때 골짜기로 후이드론 골짜기를 따라서 베들레헴으로 들어갈 때 야 저는 나오미가 아니냐 했던 그 역사로 이어지는 거죠. 그리고 요 밑에 헤롯의 개인 서재와 사우나 시설이 사우나 시설 원래 이렇게 돼 있는 터였는데 이거를 테이크톤들이 매달려서 다 깬 거예요. 그래서 계단식으로 오케이 요거를 2000년 전에 다 만들었다. 실물로 한번 보시도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 여기서 촬영하시면
볼리볼 자다 이거 내려.
여기서 촬영하시면 다나오이죠. 이 마사다구나.
2000년에.
서쪽 궁입니다. 자 그리고 이 밑을 보시면 두 번째 층 여기 동그란 터 있잖아요. 이게 아까 회의 장소. 저 밑에 사다리꼴로 나온 데 있죠. 저기가 헤롯의 개인 서재와 사우나가 있었던 곳이다. 자 이쪽으로 쭉 올라가면 예루살렘 쪽으로 방향이 나옵니다. 그리고 여기 틈새로 골짜기가 있잖아요. 이게 쿠이드론 골짜기예요. 그래서 요거를 밟고 베들레헴에서 쭉 와서 요 틈새로 사이로 와서 살아보겠다고 저쪽 건너갔다가 모든 이거는 다 회당이 요만하냐? 아니죠. 근데 이거는 나중에 그냥 전쟁 중에 급하게 만드니까 조그만 사이즈로 만들게 된 거죠. 자, 내부 살짝만 보시고 나오세요. 간단히 촬영하시고. 자, 이쪽으로 이렇게 들어와 보시면 됩니다. 그늘도 좀 시원해요.
검은색 아래쪽은 원래 있던 거고 위에 쪽은 복원한 겁니다.
여기 들어보시면 있잖아요. 저거는 던져서 뭐 누구를 죽였다 그게 아니고 저 큰도로 어떻게 던집니까? 저거는 뭐냐면 전쟁이 났다 하면 뭐 가전제품이 있는 것도 아니니까 이 안에를 돌로 임시적으로 다 물건으로 채워넣는 거예요. 그러면 여기 전체가 성벽이 돼요. 이게 요새에 붙어있는 벽. 나오미 집은 라합의 집은 이랬던 거예요. 그래서 자기가 정탐꾼들을 숨겨준 다음에 그 3대 아내가 숨겨준 다음에 바깥으로 보내주죠. 자기 집 밖에 보내주는데 성 밖에 나가죠. 이렇게 성벽에 붙어있는 집이었다. 여리고 내에 이렇게 성벽에 붙어있는 집이었다. 또 하나가 있어요. 너 나중에 우리가 점령할 때 붉은색 줄로 표시해놔라. 우리가 볼게. 신의 한복판이면 아무리 붉은색 해봐야 뭐 전쟁판에 그걸 어떻게 봐요. 근데 성벽이 밖에다가 붉은색 선에 붉은색 줄을 걸어놓으면 우리가 저쪽은 우리가 주시해서 움직이겠다 한 얘기를 정탐꾼이 하게 된 겁니다. 로마군이 싸우던 평관의 높이는 여기까지 온 거예요, 사실. 근데 유실이 된 거죠. 원래 시작점의 높이는 저 봉우리도 알려드렸잖아요. 저 봉우리 높이를 이렇게 해서 쫙 여기까지 온 거예요. 성벽을 무너뜨린 무너진 성벽 서쪽 벽이 여기입니다. 자, 우리 잠깐 여기서 시간을 묵상하는
이야, 저 밑에서 볼 때하고 다 올라오니까 너무너무 넓고 그냥
세상에
거기서
세상에나 만세나 이렇게 넓은 데서